What's up guys, Mr. SLIN here with another video about competitive Team Fortress 2. And before I get too deep into the video, I just want to wish you all a happy new year. I know many of you guys have been supporting the channel from all around the world and it really means the world to me. So thanks for coming out. Hope you guys are all safe. And yeah, let's get started with the video. So today's New Year's Eve and it's a great time to think about next year and think about the fresh beginnings that we're going to have. But also, it's a great time to reflect on the year that we've had this far. And I kind of want to even take a step back even further and reflect on the two worst moments in competitive TF2 history. I know it's like so bad. It's like, why do we want to think about that? But I think it's important for us to look back on what's happened in TF2 and how we've bounced back from it and how we can improve on that next year. So the two biggest setbacks in my mind for the competitive scene: number one, the ESEA Bitcoin mining scandal, and two, the release of Overwatch. And I kind of want to, after I talk about those, talk about what was so great about the TF2 community and how we bounced back from it and what we can do next year. So the first one was the ESEA Bitcoin mining scandal. As you guys may or may not know, ESEA is the biggest source of money going out to the players in all of TF2 by like a landslide. They've given out like 90 or 95% of all the prize money that's ever gone out in TF2. And part of the reason is because everyone in North America, which is one of the biggest scenes, pools their money together, right? They pay their ESEA league fees, they pay their ESEA premium, and then ESEA takes that money and pays it all out to the top players. And it's a real shame that this scandal happened. For those of you guys who are not familiar, when you play in ESEA, you download an anti-cheat to your computer, and that anti-cheat is installed deep at like the lowest level of your computer, at the kernel level. And what that anti-cheat does and what that allows it to do is to monitor your entire computer to see if you're cheating, which makes a lot of sense. However, when this scandal happened, ESEA completely betrayed our trust because some guy who worked there thought it'd be a great idea if, while your computer was idle, they would use your computer to mine for Bitcoins. And I don't know why they thought this was a good idea, because they eventually got found out, they got sued, and more importantly, or at least more importantly in my eyes, they completely hurt the TF2 community by doing that. Because at the time, ESEA was growing season over season. Like, more teams were signing up, and they started with open, and then they got invite division added, but then they added an intermediate division, and then they added a main division. There were 4 divisions at one point in time for ESEA. ESEA was growing in North America, but it was also growing in EU as well. In Europe, the primary league is TF2's, and ESEA was expanding into Europe for their Counter-Strike league and thought it would be a good idea to also expand into TF2 there as well. Man, did this scandal really hurt the scene, because not only did the North American players lose faith in ESEA, but the European players who were just getting started with a brand new ESEA in their region completely pulled out. They just lost all faith, and they said, there's no way I can trust you with my computer. There's no way I can trust you with my money. I'm just going to stick to TF2's. It's free. I'm familiar with it. I know the people. I trust the people there. And it's a real shame. I do think, though, that the scene has generally bounced back from that. And people have a renewed faith in ESEA. Sure, there's still people who have their doubts. I have my doubts, too. And there's a lot of memeing, of course, about Bitcoins and Bitcoin mining when it comes to ESEA, but generally speaking, people trust it again. And it's great to see that there's more teams signing up for ESEA now. One of the things that they've done this season is that they've reintroduced the intermediate league. So it kind of shows that we're having more teams signing up for North American ESEA. Not to mention that they've provided like a 33% discount for open players. They've removed the $10 open fee. Typically costs about $30 to play a season of open. Now it's about $20. So this should hopefully introduce way more players to play in ESEA this upcoming season. As for the European division for TF2, I don't think it's going to come back very quickly, but my hope is still there that in the future, ESEA can still extend out to European TF2, because sure, ETF2L does a great job and a great service to the community, but there's nothing like playing the game for money. And I think that's how the game is going to continue to grow, is if people actually pay league fees and they actually pay ESEA premium, and then people actually compete for something. Just having just a small amount of money still motivates people to try their hardest when it comes to matches, as opposed to just memeing and throwing matches and just like having a good time, which is good too, but not in a competitive game all the time. One honorable mention goes out to the death of the ESEA LAN. If you guys recall, ESEA used to have a LAN in Dallas, Texas 3 times a year where the top 4 teams in North America would fly out and compete on LAN, which is really great because when people go to a LAN, they're not going to cheat because you're there in person, most likely at least. And it's a great community building event. Everyone would like turn up to the stream and watch the top players playing from around the world. They'd all watch. And when the LAN died, like almost every single top team in North America was like, this is going to kill the game. If you kill the LAN, the game is never going to come back from that. And I just think it's funny that like ESEA is still around, like the game is still around. We're still doing just fine. And they're actually thinking of bringing the LAN back very soon, not just for Counter-Strike, but for TF2 as well. So, who knows? If the game continues to grow, ESEA could do better than ever before. So I have hope there. The second setback is the launch of Overwatch and also similar competitors like Paladins, etc. I think for the longest time, Valve had a huge head start over its competitors, right? It was the only game in its genre, and it was $20 at first, but then it became free to play, so they just had so many people trying out the game, and TF2 is still a legendary title, a legendary piece of IP to this day because, people know the game. But once Overwatch came out, as you know, despite the $40 price tag, a lot of people bought the game, and for good reason. It was like the biggest game of 2016, like, it was just a massive success. And I think a lot of people left the TF2 scene for Overwatch that will probably never come back. And that really hurts because deep down, I feel like TF2 is the better game. It's more difficult, it's more mechanically challenging, it's got its own problems, but at its core, I think it's the more fun game of the two. It just so happens that Overwatch is like really new player friendly, and Blizzard, doing what it does best, has a really polished product that from end to end is like super clean and easy to play and great for new players. And they just did a really good job with it. On the other, for the other games going out there, like Paladins and those kinds of games, I think they're doing okay, but like they don't really have a shot at the two big ones, which are Overwatch and TF2. And in a lot of ways, I see Overwatch and TF2 like I see League of Legends and Dota 2, where League of Legends is the more noob-friendly game, and TF2 is the more mechanically challenging, like harder game, but in my mind is more rewarding in that sense. Sure, there's a high skill curve to get into it, but it's like a really good game. And I think even though TF2 still has a place, and I think that it still has a potential to become a huge esport in this arena, it missed out on a huge opportunity and just a lot of lost time. Like by the time Valve decided, okay, maybe we'll start introducing a competitive mode. Okay, maybe we'll start balancing weapons for competitive play instead of for casual play. By the time they finally got their act together, that was like 7-8 years too late for them to even start working on that. And meanwhile, Blizzard was just like charging full steam ahead, and they got the Overwatch League going now. And that lead that TF2 had has been completely blown. I think that now you just have to compete by having a better product, and TF2 can get there, but it's got a really small team going for it. And I think that's just a big blow to the competitive scene because if Overwatch never existed, even if Paladins and all these other smaller competitors were there, if Overwatch never existed, I think that like all these people would still be playing TF2 and the scene would be a lot bigger. So while it's not like a death blow to the scene, it is a setback. And I do think there's a way around it, like I mentioned. I do think that like TF2 is a superior game, and it's not just enough to say that it's the superior game. You have to like prove it. You have to like show the world that TF2 is actually really sick. That's why I have like my YouTube channel and my Twitch channel, because I want to show the world that this game is really cool. But I think that we all have to do our part to like continue growing the scene. And a lot of that work is like done by people who are running newbie mixes and showing people that like how to get started in the game, because it does require a lot of hand holding to get into TF2 that Overwatch just provides with you for you right when you open the game. Right? You got the training modes, you got all this other stuff. It's just really easy to get into that game. TF2 needs a little bit of work to get into it. You have to learn how to rocket jump. You have to learn rollouts. You have to understand why certain classes are viable and not other classes. And there's like a lot of other barriers that it needs to work around too as well. Like it has to work through just like the game format. It's still being figured out. And I think that's where we should focus our efforts in 2018 is figuring out how we can make TF2 into a bigger esport than it already is. I don't want to we should be thinking big, but let's take reasonable steps as well to growing the scene because it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. We have to take a look at the game and then make meaningful steps that will continue to grow the game. And I do feel like there's a really strong core community that wants to see the game grow, that's willing to put in the effort and can see, just like how I see, that TF2 has so much potential there that has been untapped. And I'd really love to see what people do in 2018 to grow TF2 because I think that 2018 is going to be a great year for Team Fortress. Despite everything that's happened thus far, the scene is still going strong. A lot of people will look at the TF2 streams and be like, not as many people are watching before. Or they'll look at the league signups and they'll go, not as many people are signing up as before. But you have to realize that we did take these hits. We did take these setbacks. And you can still continue progressing forward from there. Call me an optimist, but I love to actually hear what you guys have to say in the comments. Am I too optimistic or what? But I actually do think, there is a path forward to growing the scene. And part of it involves community work that we've always done for 10 years. And the other part of it involves the developers. And I think the developers have already shown that they're willing to try and start thinking about competitive more, that they're willing to start putting competitive first. Sure, casual players are their bread and butter. They're going to need them. They're going to need them for a while. They're going to need to cater to those players for a long time. They're going to make hats. They're going to make congatons. They're going to do all that stuff. Sure, great. Continue to do that. However, they've also shown that they've created a matchmaking game, which still needs work, but they could put that work into it. They've shown that they're willing to make weapon balances. And now it just comes to certain other conversations that we need to have that I'm going to make future videos about. Things like, how should we be balancing the classes? How should we be balancing the weapons? How should we, fix 5CP as a game mode? All these things need to be tackled. Totally doable. I believe in us. I think it can happen. But let me know what you think in the comments. Can this happen? If you're seriously interested in making this happen, shoot me a message directly on Discord, Twitter. You know where to find me because we have to work together. It's a team effort, Team Fortress, obviously. And I can't wait for 2018 to see it happen. So thank you guys all for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed this reflection back on the history of TF2, but also looking forward. And again, Happy New Year, guys. Wish you the best 2018 possible. So looking forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Catch you next time.